The pen hit the document with a hollow tap that echoed through the cavernous living room. My fingers went numb as I read the words, Clause 7.1 again, the legal language swimming before my eyes. Any and all assets acquired during the marriage shall be considered the sole property of Quentin Wellington III upon acquisition. Betrayal tasted like copper in my mouth. My stomach clenched as if someone had reached inside and twisted my organs into knots. Through the mansion's tall windows, Charleston's golden afternoon light sliced across the mahogany table, illuminating the prenuptial agreement like a spotlight on a stage. "Sign it," Ursula said, her voice honey-smooth, but her eyes cold as river stones. Her perfectly manicured nail tapped impatiently beside the signature line. "Or the wedding is off." From his wingback chair, Quentin's father, Victor, swirled his scotch, ice cubes clinking against crystal. The sound was somehow smug. And Quentin, my fiancé of 13 months, the man who had promised to build a life with me just days before our wedding, stared at his handcrafted Italian shoes as if they contained the secrets of the universe. His silence screamed louder than any words could have. "My name is Natalie. I'm 29 and a self-made real estate investor. This is the story of how I turned a family's greed into their most public humiliation. I wasn't born into wealth or privilege. My childhood home in Savannah had creaky floors and secondhand furniture, but it was rich with laughter and lessons about integrity. My father fixed cars with calloused hands that always smelled of motor oil. My mother taught 3rd grade, coming home with construction paper stuck to her clothes and determination in her eyes. They raised me to believe that character matters more than cash. College applications were spread across our kitchen table my senior year of high school, a map of possibilities. "You can go anywhere," Mom said, squeezing my shoulder as I calculated application fees against my savings from 2 part-time jobs. Her faith wasn't misplaced. My acceptance letter to an Ivy League business school came with a full scholarship. While classmates partied on their parents' dime, I worked in the library building networks and knowledge when others built hangovers. After graduation, I took my $12,436 in savings, every dollar tracked in a worn spreadsheet, and bought my first property, a dilapidated duplex in a neighborhood others had written off. I renovated it myself, learning plumbing from YouTube videos, painting until my shoulders ached, and negotiating with contractors who initially dismissed me. The property sold for double my investment. Then came another and another. I developed a reputation for seeing potential where others saw problems. By 28, my company had transformed dozens of properties, and my net worth had quietly grown to over $29 million. I didn't flaunt it. Wealth was my security blanket, not my identity. I met Quentin at a charity auction. He bid $15,000 on a painting I wanted for my office, then offered it to me with a disarming smile. "Art should go to those who truly appreciate it," he said, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners. He was handsome in that effortless way of old money, confident without arrogance, polished without pretension. "I can buy my own paintings," I said, more amused than impressed. "I'm counting on it," he replied. "Makes you much more interesting than the usual crowd." He claimed to be tired of Charleston's high society games. "It's all so empty," he confessed over dinner dates and sunset walks. "Family name this, legacy that. I want something real." I believed him. I fell for his apparent authenticity, his seeming desire for connection beyond wealth. I thought we were building something genuine, outside the shadow of his family dynasty. The Wellingtons initially welcomed me with champagne toasts and Southern hospitality so perfectly performed it was almost believable. Weekend sailing trips on their yacht, brunches on verandas dripping with wisteria, charity galas where they introduced me with rehearsed warmth. Then came the paper cuts, small, precise wounds delivered with smiles. "It's remarkable how far you've come despite your modest beginnings," Ursula observed over tea, examining me like an unusual specimen. "Such business acumen," Victor commented at dinner, clapping his son on the back. "Not like our traditional Southern ladies, is she, son?" Quentin's sister, Vanessa, 3 glasses into a family barbecue. "Let's toast the bride. Quentin, darling, just make sure she doesn't bankrupt you with one of her risky ventures." Laughter rippled around the table while Quentin squeezed my hand under the tablecloth, a silent apology that cost him nothing. I wasn't a partner in their eyes. I was a threat, an outsider, new money who might siphon off the old. 2 weeks before the wedding, Ursula's daily calls began, each starting with saccharine concern before circling to the same destination, my finances. "Darling, I was just chatting with our financial advisor," she'd say, voice dripping like syrup laced with cyanide. "He had such interesting thoughts on portfolio management. What structures does your company use? Are your investments domestic or international?" Then Quentin started echoing his mother's questions. "We should combine accounts before the honeymoon," he suggested one evening as we reviewed venue details. "Streamline everything for our future." My instincts, the same ones that had built my empire, flashed warning signals. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about acquisition. So when Ursula slid that prenup across the table, I wasn't surprised, just disappointed. This wasn't a partnership agreement. It was a corporate takeover. The document trembled slightly in my steady hands as I scanned each clause, my mind analyzing it like a high-stakes contract. Clause 9.2 felt like a slap. In the event of marital dissolution, Natalie Evans hereby waives any and all rights to spousal support, alimony, or any claim to assets held by the Wellington family, regardless of her contribution to their growth. I carefully lowered the papers and looked directly at Quentin. "You knew about this?" My voice was quiet, but the question hung heavy in the air between us. He couldn't meet my eyes. "It's just paperwork, Natalie. My parents think it's a sensible precaution." "A precaution that says anything I build belongs to you? That I'm entitled to nothing?" I kept my voice level. "Is that your definition of partnership?" His eyes finally lifted, pleading. "Please, just sign it. Let's not create problems." In that moment, the illusion shattered completely. I didn't see my loving fiancé. I saw a man tethered to his parents' expectations, too weak to cut the strings. He wasn't my partner. He was their puppet, and he'd already chosen his loyalties. I made my choice too. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. Instead, I gave them what they never expected. Compliance wrapped in a smile. "You're right," I said softly, sliding the papers back. "It's a lot to process. I'll need to think about it." Ursula's shoulders relaxed. Victor nodded with satisfaction. Quentin looked relieved, mistaking my calm for surrender. They thought they'd won. They had no idea the battle was already over. That night, I didn't waste time on tears. In my downtown apartment, a sleek modern space I owned outright, I made one call. "Rachel," I said when my attorney answered. "Execute protocol ironclad, effective immediately." Over the next hours, we transferred every significant asset, company shares, properties, investments, liquid capital, into an irrevocable trust under my sole control, legally untouchable by any future husband or in-laws. Then I made one final call. "Hi, Gabrielle. It's Natalie Evans," I said cheerfully to our wedding planner. "I need to change my RSVP for Saturday." Confusion crackled through the phone. "Your RSVP. Natalie, you're the bride." "I know," I replied, "but there's been a change. Please mark me as attending, as a guest." The wedding day dawned perfect. Charleston at its most picturesque, sunlight filtering through ancient oaks draped with Spanish moss. The historic church downtown overflowed with white roses and society's elite, all dressed in their Sunday best. After getting ready in my apartment, I drove myself to St. Michael's Church, arriving just as the string quartet began playing Wagner's traditional processional. Not in a white gown with a cathedral train, but in a tailored cream dress that stopped at my knees, a dress that announced, "I am not your bride." As I walked down the aisle to find a seat in the back row, whispers followed me like ripples in still water. Hundreds of eyes tracked my movement, faces morphing from confusion to shock as understanding dawned. Ursula found me first, her face contorted with fury as she marched down the aisle, pearls bouncing against her collarbones. "What are you wearing?" she hissed through clenched teeth. "What is the meaning of this spectacle?" I smiled calmly and presented the pristine, unsigned prenuptial agreement. "I'm here as a witness, not a participant," I said, my voice clear enough for nearby guests to hear. You said sign it or the wedding is off. I didn't sign. Her face blanched as Victor stormed over, having witnessed the commotion from his position near the altar where Quentin stood, ashen-faced and panicking. You ungrateful little nobody, Victor boomed, his complexion mottling red beneath his tan. After everything we've offered, you humiliate our family like this? You'll never see a cent of Wellington money. The church fell silent. This was their moment to put me in my place, to remind me of my station. I didn't flinch. From my clutch, I withdrew a slim folder containing a single magazine, the latest issue of Forbes. I held it up so he could see the cover clearly. There I was, photographed in my office, professional and poised, the headline blazed in bold type. The Southeast's newest titan, how Natalie Evans built a $29 million empire before 30. I let him read it. I watched his eyes widen, pupils dilating with shock. Then I met his gaze directly, my voice steady and clear in the cathedral silence. This was never about getting anything from you, Victor. I have 29 million reasons to never need your name. A collective gasp rippled through the church. Across the aisle, Vanessa's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering against the stone floor like the family's illusions about me. Quentin stood frozen at the altar, looking less like a groom and more like a child whose favorite toy had been taken away. Their arrogance evaporated, replaced by the dawning realization that they'd tried to trap a wolf thinking it was a lamb. I didn't stay to witness the aftermath. With dignity intact, I walked back up the aisle and through the heavy wooden doors. Outside, the Charleston sunshine warmed my face as I drew my first free breath in months. Relief mingled with the bittersweet ache of losing what I'd thought was love. Hours later, in the sanctuary of my apartment, my phone illuminated with Quentin's desperate messages. Natalie, please call me. We can fix this. It was a mistake. I love you. My parents are devastated. They're blaming me for everything. I read each one without emotion, recognizing the words of a man mourning a financial opportunity rather than a relationship. He wasn't sorry for betraying me. He was sorry he'd been caught. Sorry he'd failed his parents' expectations. With methodical precision, I blocked every Wellington number. Quentin, Ursula, Victor, Vanessa. Each tap of my screen felt like cutting another string that had tried to bind me. It wasn't vengeance. It was freedom. 2 weeks later, I received formal confirmation that the engagement was officially dissolved. My attorney informed me that Quentin had withdrawn his proposal through legal channels, effectively ending any remaining contractual obligations related to the wedding. The chapter was closed permanently, exactly as I wanted it. Looking back, I know I made the right choice. My heart raced that day not from anxiety, but from finally claiming my power. The lesson in betrayal delivered an unexpected justice. They wanted my money, but all they got was public humiliation. I kept my dignity, my independence, and my $29 million. So I have to ask you, what would you have done? Would you have signed away your future for what you thought was love? Or would you have walked away like I did? Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.